given the 3-day notice, they still don't respond. You've now moved forward to continuing with the eviction process. Now you've gotten to eviction court. One of the things that the judge is going to look for is that 3-day notice, and they're going to ask, how did you deliver it? Just make sure that the 3-day notice is filled out correctly, make sure that it's delivered correctly. And the tenant responds to that 3-day notice, and you decide to have a payment plan. Make sure you have your documents already. We'll make sure that the tenant can understand it, you can understand it, they understand what is due and when it's due. If the tenant says, I can't pay all of the rent right now, so on the 15th, I'll pay you first half, by the 20th, I'll pay you the remaining. If the 15th comes and you do not receive what they said they were gonna give you, then you have every right to continue on with the eviction process. Hello, welcome to High-End Homes Handled Right. This is the Real Property Management Luxury Podcast hosted by yours truly, Lyndel Johnson. Today's episode, we are going to talk about 3-day notices. And we're going to talk about things that you should do to try to help prevent from having to deliver a 3-day notice, and really how to deal with a tenant who just hasn't paid on time. All right, so you've decided to rent your property and you have done your due diligence and screening your applicant. Everything looks great. You know, they have great income, great rental history, credit score is amazing, and no criminal everything is just what you expect for an impressive tenant. And they move in. 1 month goes by, they pay on time. 2nd month, they pay on time. 3rd month, you look at your whatever app you're using, or you look to see if rent was paid, and you realize that they haven't paid your rent. You haven't received rent from them. So you call and you email and nothing. And now we're down to later on into the month, and you've just decided, you know what, I'm going to give them a chance, and we'll see if they pay, which is something you should never do. And all of a sudden you realize you're not getting any payment, but the late fee is there, but they're still not paying. So the 3-day notice is there to make sure that it is basically a legal document that puts the tenant's foot to the fire. It's really just telling the tenant that, hey, this is serious. If you don't contact us or fix this within 3 days, we are going to move forward with an eviction. You should never do what I just said in that example and wait that long to give a 3-day notice. I give 3-day notices on day 3 of the 3rd day of the month. I mean, I don't wait. And I'll explain later on why I do it. So, why I do it the way I do it. But you want to make sure that the renter realizes that, hey, I was late, I need to pay, and you guys are serious. The landlord and the owner is serious about receiving the payment, and it gives them actually an opportunity to maybe come up with a payment plan, or maybe something happened in their life. Like in that example, I said that they were incredible. It was an incredible applicant. And maybe something did happen. Maybe they had a death in the family and they had to pay for a funeral, or maybe someone had lost a job, or, life happens. Life happens. And most owners, property managers, they understand these things. And if there's a need for a payment plan, I think 99 out of 100 owners or property managers would say okay to that. You're telling me that a manager or owner is going to say, I would rather get nothing from you instead of actually getting something, to the point where then you finally now have paid up and you are where you need to be. Most people would say, yes, that's, if I'd rather take that then. But of course, the best way to go is just pay on time. That's what we want. We want tenants that take care of their property. We want tenants that love where they live. We want tenants to keep that property as if it was their own and pay on time. If the owner has a mortgage, I bet you the owner has to pay that mortgage on time. So it doesn't make sense that a renter should rent the property and not have to pay on time. It's just, it's almost, if you don't pay your phone bill on time, eventually they're going to cut off your phone. Right. Same type of thing. So when you have a 3-day notice, this is a very, very important document that you must deliver. And I'm talking to the owner, property managers. You must deliver it correctly. You must give it to the owner or to the renter. I'm sorry. You must give it to the renter in a specific way. Either you open up the door, you put it on the back side of the door, hand deliver it, certified mail, registered mail. But you cannot deliver a 3-day notice by a text. You can't deliver it by an email. It can't be delivered through just a phone call. So I can't call a tenant. Like today is the 3rd of the month. It's the 3rd of July. I can't call a tenant that right now that is late and say, hey, you're late. This is your verbal 3-day notice. It doesn't work that way. There's a specific way. Now, let's say you've given the 3-day notice, they still don't respond. You've now moved forward to continuing with the eviction process. Now you've gotten to eviction court. Whenever you get a court date, one of the things that the judge is going to look for is that 3-day notice, and they're going to ask, how did you deliver it? It's a question that I've seen several times, but that is, just make sure that the 3-day notice is filled out correctly, A, and B, make sure it's delivered correctly. And then, another thing, if you deliver that 3-day notice and the tenant responds to that 3-day notice and you decide to have a payment plan, make sure you have your documents already done. Make sure it's an accurate document. Make sure it's legible. Make sure that the tenant can understand it, you can understand it, and that they understand what is due and when it's due. And if the tenant says, you know what, I can't pay all of the rent right now because of a situation we had in our family. So on the 15th, I'll pay you the first half. And by the 20th, I'll pay you the remaining. And then, we'll be square. If the 15th comes and you do not receive what they said they were going to give you, then you have every right to continue on with the eviction process. And that may sound pretty harsh, but you never want to have an eviction, but you also don't want 1 month rent turning into 2 month rent, turn to 3, 4, 5, and now the renter owes $15,000, for example. You'll never get that. You will never get that money back. So, let's rewind a little bit. Earlier I said that I like to give rent is late on the 3rd of the month. And I am very big on really checking my delinquency report on the 3rd, because, if a renter gets behind 1 month of rent, it is going to be very hard for them to get out of that. So now July, they haven't paid July. Now August comes and now they owe the August rent. Are they going to be able to pay for July and August, especially if they were struggling in July? Chances are they're not. And it's going to turn July rent, it's going to turn into August rent not received, and then it's going to turn to September. And it's just going to be, the snowball effect. It's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger to eventually you're going to decide to evict. And if you're a property manager, your owner's going to be upset. Your owner's going to say, look at all this money that I haven't received. And then by the time you get to eviction court, The eviction court is not going to be the same day that you file for eviction. So you probably wait months after that. Now you're talking about more months tacked on. And it's just a huge mess. And even if the tenant had wanted to pay on time, it's gotten to a point now where they're probably, just given up and said, hey, there's no way I can afford $15,000 to pay back. So they are now just living rent free. It's just a mess. It's a mess. So what you want to do is you want to nip it in the bud right away. As soon as you see that they're late, give a call, show that you care, and find out what the problem is and what you can do. But make sure you cover yourself with these legal documents so that if it ever gets to eviction, you are ready and you've done everything you were supposed to do. And if you're a property manager, your job is to take care of that owner. And if you're an owner, managing this property yourself, you want to make sure that you take care of your asset. Owning homes and renting out homes is an expensive. It's expensive. It's expensive, and you want to take care of that asset. So once again, really make sure that you fill out that 3-day notice correctly. Make sure that you deliver it correctly. Make sure that the tenant, if it's going to be a payment plan, make sure that tenant responds, and make sure you are firm with the payment plan dates. And do not let late rent for 1 month turn to late rent for 2 months and so on, because you will never get out of that. And, most deposits are about, here in Texas, I charge for each property about 1.5 times the rent. That's how much I is my deposit amount. So your deposit amount really should not be used for owed rent. It should be for beyond normal wear and tear in that unit or in that house. That's what that deposit should be for. So you should never have to pull that deposit. So let's just say they, didn't pay that 1 month's rent or 2 months have gone by or whatever, and now you're going to have to take out that deposit money. Now, what happens when you look at you go and you do an inspection, you find out there's holes in the walls, or you find out that there's damage all over the property. Where is that money going to come from to fix those issues? Because now you've lost on your rent. You've lost now because now it's beyond normal wear and tear in the property. And this is just a big, big mess. And honestly, this is why some people do not want to do rentals. But this is why it's also important to have professional property managers or professionals taking care of your house or your unit, because they know the tricks and they know how to really manage people and how to make sure that these things don't happen or reduce the chances of this happening. Our goal is really to make sure you get a great return on your investment, and by doing the right things, that's the best way to make sure that happens. But that's it for today. We wanted just to touch base on this 3-day notice. This weekend, if you guys are going out enjoying the 4th of July weekend, please have fun, be safe, and just enjoy your time. And it's great to be here in the incredible United States of America. And, thank you for taking your time to listen to this podcast. And I hope you learned something from today. Once again, this is Lyndel from High End Homes Handle Right. This is the Real Property Management Luxury Podcast. Have a great day.